Welcome back to Polar Warriors, a channel completely dedicated to the bipolar experience. We're going to cover a lot about bipolar disorder through this multi-part series, as mentioned in the previous video that went over bipolar diagnosis, so please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on some really important information to come. In this video, we're talking about bipolar type 1, which is the category I fall under and have been battling for almost 2 decades now. So to summarize, bipolar in general is what's known as a spectrum disorder, which means it includes several different subcategories, types, and symptoms that all lead back to the core illness. Bipolar type 1 is part of that spectrum, and most notably, we experience severe depression and all-out full-blown mania. Now, according to the National Institute of Mental Health, around 2.6% of the US population has bipolar disorder, which equates to around 5.7 million people over the age of 18. Bipolar type 2 is actually more common than type 1, but there's still millions of us with type 1 around the world, so we're not alone by a long shot, which I think is kind of cool. Even with so many people diagnosed and affected by the disorder, there's still a massive number of people around the world that'll never receive a correct diagnosis or the treatment that they deserve. And that's why people like me are working really hard to try and get some well-needed information out there. Anyways, back to the specifics of bipolar type 1. In addition to experiencing at least one manic or mixed episode, we also have one or more depressive episodes, and all of us experience what's called a hypomanic stage before we progress into full-blown mania, which can lead to total psychosis. If this sounds like some kind of foreign language to you, that's totally normal, and we'll get way deeper into the different types of mania, depression, and psychosis and symptoms throughout this series, so hang on to your shorts and stick with me. People with bipolar 1 cycle or switch between severe depressive and manic episodes. This basically conforms to the old school concept of what they called manic depression, which is what bipolar disorder was generalized as before psychologists started calling it bipolar disorder and breaking it down into the different types. Lots of us can also have periods or time in between episodes where we might not have intense mood issues, where we basically feel more or less stable. Times like this are actually called euthymia, or a euthemic state. And there's our new word of the day. In a nutshell, the difference between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 lies in the severity of the manic episodes that we experience with both types. Patients who are diagnosed as type 2 don't experience full-blown mania or mixed manic states like we do. They experience what's called hypomania, which is a less severe form of mania. The episodes of depression are actually similar between type 1 and type 2. However, with bipolar type 1, the mania is a lot more intense. Now, I am absolutely not downplaying bipolar 2. It is incredibly serious and horrific to deal with also. In fact, people with bipolar 2 can spend a lot more time in a depressive state than we can, which increases the chances of people ending their lives. It's all challenging, and we're all basically in the same bipolar boat here. So in the Mental Disorder Bible, or the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or the DSM for short, thank goodness, the diagnostic criteria for bipolar 1 is as follows. Bipolar 1 is a clinical course characterized by the occurrence of one or more manic episodes or mixed episodes. Interestingly enough, one episode of mania is actually enough to diagnose someone as bipolar, even if they might have not had a history of minor depressive episodes. Again, this isn't a simplification, because most people that get full-blown manic can end up hospitalized for a long time. They can end up in jail and literally ruin their lives in a matter of weeks or days. It's no joke. Diagnosing bipolar 1 can be hard, because who wants to go to the doctor when they feel manic and great, right? A lot of the time people end up crashing from the mania, and it's the unbearable depression that lands them in the doctor's office. And worse yet, it's so common for some doctor to misdiagnose us as just depressed and send us home in a few minutes with a pamphlet and a handful of whatever the latest and greatest drug samples are that some pharmacy rep dropped off last week. I don't mean to sound so cynical by saying that, but with 20 to 30% of people complaining about bipolar depression getting misdiagnosed as just depressed, and sent on their way. There are so many people that aren't getting the care that they desperately need to live a healthy and productive life. If you think that you might be bipolar, a specialist is really the way to go. And also, I recommend checking out my video on the top 10 signs of bipolar disorder. Go through the video, write down the symptoms that you experience personally, how often they occur, and how strong they are, like on a scale of 1 to 10. This kind of information can be so valuable to a doctor and help prevent a misdiagnosis in the first place. As far as effective treatment goes, bipolar disorder requires a comprehensive treatment approach, meaning meds and therapy, lifestyle changes like staying sober or watching what you eat, getting enough sleep, getting enough sunlight, things like that. Most people can't just pop a single pill and expect it to all go away. Medications like mood stabilizers, antidepressants, antipsychotics, sleep medication, anti-anxiety meds, and others are commonly prescribed in combination with each other to hit the symptoms from different angles. Meds are basically the first line of defense when it comes to treating the illness, but they're only part of a comprehensive treatment program. And again, we'll touch on treatment a lot more as the series goes on. So that, my Polar Warriors, is Bipolar Type 1. And this is probably one of the most inclusive videos on YouTube about Bipolar Type 1. And it does take a lot of work to make a video like this. So please consider showing your support with a tiny digital thank you and subscribe to my channel. Keep coming back because we have lots more info and helpful tips for you, your family, and your loved ones on living the bipolar experience, as I call it. Stay well, stay peaceful, and hope to see you back here again soon. Take care.